Marcus Cole had seen many ugly things in his life. He had worked on cargo ships since he was 18 years old. He had visited stations where people sold illegal weapons. He had met criminals, killers, and worse. But nothing had prepared him for the silken Market Andriga station. The underground auction house sat deep beneath the station's surface. Marcus had to pass through 3 security checkpoints to reach it. The guards did not ask questions. They only checked that visitors had enough money to be serious buyers. Marcus showed them his credit account. 42,000 credits. It was everything he owned. The auction hall was large and dark. Hundreds of beings sat in curved rows facing a central platform. Marcus saw species he recognized and many he did not. There were Corthan merchants with their gray skin and small eyes. There were Drexian nobles wearing clothes that cost more than his ship. There were humans too, though most of them looked away when he tried to meet their eyes. Nobody wanted to be remembered in a place like this. Marcus was not here to buy. He was here for information. A data chip containing evidence that could save his brother's life was somewhere on this station. His contact had told him the chip's owner sometimes visited the silken market. So Marcus had come to watch and wait. The auction began with simple things. Rare minerals, stolen artwork, technology that was illegal in most systems. The prices climbed quickly. Marcus watched the bidders raise their hands, spending fortunes without emotion. He felt sick. Then the auctioneer announced something different. Lot 47, the auctioneer said. His voice was smooth and cold. A living specimen. Extremely rare. Extremely valuable. Guards brought a small figure onto the platform. Marcus leaned forward in his seat. She was a child. That was his first thought. She looked young, maybe 5 or 6 years old by human standards. Her skin was silver, not like metal, but like moonlight on water. It seemed to glow softly in the dim auction hall. She had 4 eyes, all of them deep violet, arranged in pairs on her small face. Her body was thin and delicate. She wore simple white clothes that were torn and dirty. The crowd made sounds of interest. Some beings leaned forward. Others whispered to each other. A Volanthi juvenile, the auctioneer continued. Captured 3 weeks ago. Healthy condition. Full telepathic potential. Bidding starts at 3 million credits. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. He knew about the Volanthi. Everyone did. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had helped create the Galactic Concord, the alliance that kept peace between hundreds of worlds. They were known for their wisdom, their kindness, and their powerful mental abilities. They were also fiercely protected by every law. In civilized space, whoever had taken this child had committed a terrible crime. Whoever bought her would be committing another dot. The bidding began immediately. 3 million, 5 million, 8 million. Marcus watched the numbers climb. He felt helpless, angry. He thought about the weapons dealers he had seen on other stations. He thought about the drug runners and the thieves. Those things were bad, but this was something else. This was a child being sold like furniture. 12 million. 15 million. The child stood perfectly still on the platform. She did not cry. She did not beg. She simply watched the crowd with those 4 violet eyes. Marcus wondered what she was thinking. Could she read the minds of the beings bidding on her? Could she feel their greed and their cruelty? Then her eyes found him. Marcus stopped breathing. The child was looking directly at him, through all the rows of seats, past all the wealthy buyers. She was looking at him like she knew something about him that he did not know himself. Something passed between them. Marcus could not explain it. It was not telepathy, exactly. It was more like a feeling. Like standing at the edge of a cliff and knowing you had to jump. 20 million. The bidding was slowing down. Most buyers had dropped out. Only 3 remained. A Corthan merchant with cold eyes. A human woman in an expensive suit. And something Marcus could not identify. A creature made of shadow and whispers in the back row. Marcus looked at his credit account again. 42,000 credits. He could not buy this child. He could not even come close. But he could not look away from her either. The child was still watching him. 22 million. 25 million. Marcus thought about his brother, sitting in a prison cell on Earth, waiting for evidence that might never come. He thought about the data chip he had come here to find. He thought about all the sensible reasons to stay in his seat, keep quiet, and let this terrible thing happen to someone who was not his responsibility. Then he thought about what kind of person he wanted to be. The bidding ended at 28 million credits. The shadow creature in the back row had won. Guards began to move toward the platform to collect the child. Marcus stood up. He did not have a plan. He did not have enough money. He did not have weapons or allies or any hope of success. But he had made a decision, and once Marcus Cole made a decision, he did not change his mind. He pushed through the crowd toward the exit. People cursed at him in a dozen languages. He ignored them. His mind was already working on the problem. The child would be held somewhere on the station until the buyer arranged transport. That meant Marcus had time. Not much time, but some. He needed to find the security systems. He needed to find the holding cells. He needed to find a way to cause chaos and confusion. And he needed to do all of this before anyone realized what he was planning. Marcus reached the exit and looked back one last time. The child was being led off the platform by guards, but she was still watching him. And now, for the first time, there was something like hope in her violet eyes. He did not know her name. He did not know her family. He did not know anything about her except that she was a child who needed help. That was enough. Marcus Cole walked out of the silken market and began to plan the most foolish thing he had ever done in his life. Marcus had 6 hours before the shadow creature would come to collect its purchase. 6 hours to do the impossible. He did not waste a single minute. His first stop was the maintenance level of the station. He found a worker named Grell who owed him a favor from 3 years ago. Grell was nervous and did not want to help. But Marcus reminded him of the time he had hidden Grell from station security after a job went wrong. Grell gave him access codes to the service tunnels that ran beneath the auction house. His second stop was a bar called the Rusty Engine. Inside, he found a security officer named Tanis drinking alone. Tanis worked for the station and had a gambling problem. More importantly, Tanis had been stealing credits from the station treasury for years. Marcus had video evidence of this. He had been saving it for an emergency. This was an emergency. Tanis agreed to disable the security cameras in Section 7 for exactly 15 minutes. His hands were shaking when he made the deal. Marcus did not feel bad for him. His third stop was a docking bay where a smuggler named Vex kept her ship. Vex was dangerous. She had killed people for looking at her wrong. But she also loved chaos, and she hated the people who ran the silken market. "I need a distraction," Marcus told her. "Something big. Something that will pull security away from the holding area." Vex smiled. She had too many teeth, and all of them were sharp. "What are you offering?" Marcus gave her the navigation codes to his ship. These codes contained secret routes through asteroid fields and patrol gaps. They were worth more than his ship itself. Vex's eyes went wide when she saw them. 15 minutes of chaos, she said. "Starting when?" 4 hours from now." They shook hands. The deal was done. Marcus spent the next 3 hours studying maps of the station. He memorized every corridor, every door, every possible escape route. He checked his weapon, a simple plasma pistol that he had owned for 10 years. He had never killed anyone with it before. He hoped he would not have to start tonight, but he knew he probably would. When the time came, Marcus was hiding in a service tunnel beneath the auction house. He could hear the normal sounds of the station above him. People talking, machines humming, the distant music from entertainment areas died. Then Vex delivered her distraction. The explosion was enormous. It came from the entertainment district, 3 sections away from the auction house. Alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed. Marcus heard shouting, running. Panic thought he moved. The service tunnel led to a locked door. Marcus used the codes Grell had given him. The door opened into a storage room. From there, a hallway led to the holding area where valuable items were kept before delivery. 2 guards stood at the entrance. Marcus did not hesitate. He came around the corner fast, his pistol already raised. The first guard saw him and reached for his weapon. Too slow. Marcus fired twice. The guard fell. The second guard was faster. She got her weapon up and fired back. The shot burned past Marcus's ear, close enough to smell. He fired again. She fell. Marcus stood over the bodies and felt nothing. There was no time for feelings. He had maybe 10 minutes before more guards arrived. The holding area was a long room with many cells. Most of them contained objects, art, weapons, technology, but at the far end, there was a cell with a small silver figure inside. The child looked up when Marcus approached. Her 4 violet eyes studied him without fear. "I knew you would come," she said. Her voice was strange and beautiful, like wind blowing through crystal. "I'm Marcus," he said as he worked on the cell lock. "I'm getting you out of here. I know who you are. I saw you decide." The lock clicked open. Marcus pulled the door wide. The child stepped out and immediately reached up toward him. Without thinking, Marcus lifted her. She wrapped her thin arms around his neck and held tight. She weighed almost nothing. "We need to run," Marcus said. Yes, he ran. The corridors were chaos. Security teams rushed toward the explosion site. Maintenance workers fled in all directions. Nobody paid attention to one human carrying a small child. Marcus reached the service tunnels and kept moving. His lungs burned. His legs ached. But he did not slow down. "My name is Lyrian," the child said quietly as he ran. "Nice to meet you. Lyrian, you are going to save me. That's the plan. But the cost to you will be very high." Marcus did not answer. He already knew the cost. His brother's evidence was gone. His money was gone. His ship's value was gone. His contacts would never trust him again. After tonight, he would be hunted by every criminal in this sector. But he kept running. The docking bay was 200 meters ahead. The blast doors were starting to close. An automated voice announced emergency lockdown procedures. Marcus ran faster than he had ever run in his life. 50 meters. 30 meters. The doors were halfway. Close. 10 meters. Marcus dove through the gap with Lyrian pressed against his chest. He hit the ground hard and rolled to protect her. The doors slammed shut behind them. His ship, the Perseverance, sat waiting. It was old and ugly and barely functional. But right now, it was the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen. He carried Lyrian up the ramp and into the cockpit. His fingers flew across the controls. The engines roared to life. "Hold on," he said. The ship launched. Behind them, alarms screamed and weapons tried to lock on. But Marcus was already flying through the gap in the station's shields, already jumping toward deep space, already leaving everything he knew behind. Lyrian sat in the co-pilot seat, her small body calm and still. She watched the stars streak past as they entered jump space. "Thank you, Marcus Cole," she said. He looked at her silver face and her strange violet eyes. He thought about everything he had lost tonight and everything he might lose tomorrow. "You're welcome, Lyrian," he said. "Now let's get you home." The man who owned the silken market was named Keth Serrano. He was not human. He was not any species that most people could name. His body was long and covered in dark scales. His eyes were yellow and cold. He had built his criminal empire over 50 years, and nobody had ever stolen from him until now. When Serrano learned what had happened, he was quiet for a long time. His guards stood frozen, afraid to breathe. Then Serrano smiled, and that was much worse than anger. "Find the human," he said. 50 million credits, alive. I want to speak with him personally. The bounty spread across the galaxy like fire. Within hours, every hunter, every criminal, every desperate person with a ship was looking for Marcus Cole and the Perseverance. Marcus knew this would happen. He had planned for it as best he could. But he had not planned for just how many people would come after him. On the third day, bounty hunters found them at a refueling station. Marcus shot his way out and barely escaped with half a tank of fuel. On the seventh day, a pirate fleet cornered them near an asteroid field. Marcus flew through the rocks at dangerous speed, scraping his ship against stone walls until the pirates gave up. On the 12th day, they ran out of food. Lyrian did not complain. She sat in the co-pilot's seat and watched everything with her strange violet eyes. Sometimes she asked questions. Sometimes she was silent. Marcus found her presence both comforting and unsettling. "You are tired," she said one night as they drifted in empty space. Marcus laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Yeah, I'm tired. Why do you keep going?" The logical choice would be to surrender. "Serrano would let me go if you gave yourself up." "No, he wouldn't. And even if he would, that's not an option." "Why not?" Marcus thought about the question. He thought about his brother, still waiting in prison. He thought about the evidence he would never find now. He thought about all the practical reasons why rescuing Lyrian was a mistake. "Because some things matter more than logic," he said finally. "Because if I give up now, then everything I did was pointless. And because—" He paused, searching for words. "Because you deserve to go home. Everyone deserves that." Lyrian was quiet for a long moment. Her silver skin seemed to glow softly in the dim light of the cockpit. "Humans are strange," she said. "My people have studied your species for many years. We find you confusing." "Yeah? Why's that?" "You are violent and peaceful, selfish and generous. You destroy and you create. You are full of contradictions." Marcus smiled slightly. "That sounds about right. But there is something else about humans. Something my people talk about often." Lyrian turned to look at him with all four eyes. When a human truly decides to do something, nothing in the galaxy can stop them. Not logic, not danger, not even certain death. You simply refuse to quit. We call that being stubborn. We call it being terrifying. Marcus did not know what to say to that. On the 15th day, they reached a trading post at the edge of civilized space. Marcus sold his backup generator, his spare parts, and his emergency medical kit. He used the money to buy food and fuel for 3 more weeks. On the 18th day, Lyrian got sick. It started with a cough, then a fever. Her silver skin became pale and gray. She could not eat. She could barely drink water. Marcus watched her grow weaker and felt fear like ice in his chest. "What's wrong?" He asked her. "What do you need?" "My body needs certain minerals that are common on my homeworld," she said. Her voice was weak. "Without them, my cells cannot function properly. Humans would call it malnutrition, but more severe. How long can you survive without these minerals?" Lyrian did not answer. That was answer enough. Marcus pushed the ship harder. He plotted a course toward Galactic Concord space, where the Volanti embassy could help her. The journey would take 12 days at maximum speed. He did not know if Lyrian had 12 days. On the 20th day, She stopped talking. She lay in the small bed behind the cockpit, her eyes closed, her breathing shallow. Marcus sat beside her and held her thin silver hand. "Stay with me, kid," he whispered. "We're almost there." On the 21st day, Serrano's fleet found them. Marcus was checking their position when the alarm screamed. He ran to the cockpit and saw the sensor display filling up with hostile contacts. 15 ships. Some were small and fast. Some were large and heavily armed. All of them were blocking his path to the embassy. A message appeared on his communication screen. Marcus opened it. Keth Serrano's yellow eyes stared at him from the display. "Marcus Cole," Serrano said. His voice was soft and dangerous. "You have caused me great trouble. You have cost me a fortune. You have embarrassed me in front of my entire organization." Marcus said nothing. "But I am a reasonable being. Surrender now, and I will let the child go. I will personally deliver her to the Volanthi embassy. She will live. All you must do is give yourself to me." Marcus looked at the sensor display. 15 ships. He had one. The math was simple. He looked at Lyrian, small and still on her bed. He made his decision. "What guarantee do I have?" he asked. Serrano smiled. "My word, which, unlike yours, is worth something in this galaxy. And if I refuse, then I will take you both. And the child will suffer for your stubbornness." Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about his brother. He thought about his own survival. He thought about all the reasons to keep fighting. Then he thought about Lyrian, about her strange questions and her quiet courage, about the way she had looked at him in the auction house with something like hope. "I accept," Marcus said. "But you deliver her first. I watch it happen. Then I surrender." Serrano's smile widened. "Agreed." Marcus ended the communication and sat in silence. Around him, the enemy fleet waited. Behind him, a child was dying. And ahead of him, there was only one path left. He had gambled everything. Now it was time to pay. The hours that followed were the longest of Marcus's life. Serrano kept his word. One of his ships, a small transport vessel, approached the Perseverance. Marcus carried Lyrian to the airlock himself. She was barely conscious, her silver skin almost white, her breathing like whispers. "Marcus," she said. Her eyes opened slightly. "What are you doing?" "Getting you home," he said. "That was always the plan. But Serrano, don't worry about Serrano. Don't worry about anything. Just rest." He placed her gently into the arms of the transport ship's medical officer. The officer was a species Marcus did not recognize, with 4 arms and blue skin. But the being handled Lyrian with surprising gentleness. "Take care of her," Marcus said. The officer nodded and carried Lyrian into the transport. The airlock closed. Marcus watched through the window as the small ship pulled away and began moving toward the distant lights of Threshold Station. He watched until the ship was just a dot among the stars. He watched until it disappeared completely. Then he turned around to face the guards, who had boarded his ship. There were 6 of them, big, armed, professional. They did not speak. They simply put chains on his wrists and led him to a shuttle. The shuttle docked with Serrano's flagship 30 minutes later. Marcus was brought to a large room with expensive furniture and soft lighting. It looked like the office of a wealthy businessman, not a criminal. But the guards with weapons at every door told the real story. Serrano was waiting. The crime lord sat behind a massive desk made of dark wood. He was even more frightening in person. His scaled body was long and thick, like a snake that had grown arms. His yellow eyes did not blink. When he smiled, Marcus saw rows of small, sharp teeth. "The famous Marcus Cole," Serrano said. "Please, sit." Marcus sat in the chair across from the desk. His chains clinked against the armrests. I must admit, Serrano continued, I am impressed. I have been in this business for 50 years. Nobody has ever stolen from me before, and nobody has ever run for 3 weeks with my entire organization hunting them. I'm honored, Marcus said flatly. You should be. Serrano leaned forward. Tell me something, human. Why did you do it? You had no connection to that child. You had no reason to risk your life. You could have walked away and lived comfortably. Instead, you chose this. He gestured at the chains. Why? Marcus thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times over the past 3 weeks. The answer was always the same. Because she was a child who needed help, he said. And I was there. Serrano stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a cold, unpleasant sound. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. You threw away everything for a stranger. Your money, your ship, your future, your freedom, all for someone you did not know and would never see again. That's right. And you feel no regret? Marcus looked at the crime lord with steady eyes. None. Serrano shook his head slowly. I will never understand humans. You are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and yet you waste your potential on sentiment, on emotion, on foolish ideas about right and wrong. Maybe that's why we're dangerous, Marcus said. Serrano's smile faded slightly. He studied Marcus like a scientist studying a strange specimen. Perhaps you are right, he said. Perhaps that is exactly why humans frighten me. He stood up and walked around the desk. I am going to make an example of you, Marcus Cole. I am going to show the galaxy what happens to those who steal from Keth Serrano. It will not be quick. It will not be gentle. But it will be memorable. Marcus did not look away. Do what you have to do. Oh, I intend to. Serrano stopped in front of him. But first, I want you to understand something. That child you saved? She will forget you. Her people will take her home, heal her, and she will grow up never knowing your name. Your sacrifice will mean nothing. Nobody will remember Marcus Cole. For the first time, Marcus smiled. You're wrong, he said. Am I? Yeah, because I didn't do it to be remembered. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And that's something you'll never understand. Serrano's eyes narrowed. For a moment, something like uncertainty crossed his face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold anger. Take him to the cells, he said to the guards. We begin tomorrow. The guards grabbed Marcus and dragged him from the room. He did not resist. He did not speak. He simply walked, his chains rattling with each step, toward whatever waited for him in the dark. But as he walked, he thought about Lyrian. He imagined her waking up in the Volante embassy, surrounded by her own people, safe and healing. He imagined her going home to her family. He imagined her growing up, living her life, becoming whatever she was meant to become. Maybe Serrano was right. Maybe she would forget him. Maybe nobody would ever know what he had done. But Marcus knew. And that was enough. He had gambled everything. He had lost everything. But he had saved one innocent life. In the end. That was the only math that mattered. The guards threw him into a small, dark cell and locked the door. Marcus sat on the cold floor and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, the pain would begin. Tomorrow, he would suffer. Tomorrow might be the beginning of the end. But tonight, he was at peace. Because tonight, somewhere across the stars, a little girl with silver skin and violet eyes was finally going home. High Council of Velith had ruled her people for 200 years. She had seen wars and peace. She had watched civilizations rise and fall. She had guided the Volante through some of the darkest times in their history. Nothing could shake her. Nothing could break her calm until her daughter was taken. For 4 months, Velith had searched. She had sent ships to every corner of the galaxy. She had demanded answers from governments and criminals alike. She had come closer to declaring war than any Velanti leader in 300 years. And still, she had found nothing. Then, on a quiet evening, a message arrived from the Galactic Concord Embassy on Threshold Station. Her daughter was alive. Lyrian was safe. Velith did not cry. She did not celebrate. She simply stood in her council chamber and felt the weight of 4 months lift from her shoulders. Then she asked a question that would change everything. How did she escape? Who saved her? The answer came in pieces over the following days. First, the doctors reported that Lyrian was recovering well, but had been severely malnourished. She had been living on a small human cargo ship with limited supplies. A few more days without proper food would have killed her. Then came Lyrian herself, finally strong enough to speak. Vela sat beside her daughter's bed in the embassy medical center and listened. She listened to everything. The auction, the human who had watched from the crowd, the rescue, the chase, the sacrifice. He gave himself to Serrano, Lyrian said. Her voice was still weak, but her 4 violet eyes were bright with emotion. He traded his life for mine, and he never hesitated. Not once. Did he know what would happen to him? Yes, Serrano told him. But Marcus did not care. Velith was silent for a long moment. She had studied humans for decades. She knew they were capable of great violence and great kindness. But this was something else. This was a stranger choosing death for a child he did not know. Tell me about him, she said. Tell me everything. Lyrian told her. She described Marcus Cole with the perfect memory of her people. His tired face, his quiet determination, his rough kindness, the way he had held her as he ran through the station, the way he had spoken to her during their 3 weeks of running, the way he had smiled when he handed her to Serrano's transport. He was not afraid, Lyrian said. Not at the end. He was sad, I think, but not afraid. Why? Velith asked. Why would a human do this? Lyrian looked at her mother with ancient eyes and a young face. I asked him the same question. He said some things matter more than logic. He said everyone deserves to go home. Velith thought about this for a long time. Over the next week, she gathered more information. She traced the path of the Perseverance through 12 systems. She found security footage from the station where Lyrian was held. She watched a tired, desperate human look at her daughter and make an impossible choice. She studied his face, unremarkable, ordinary, human dot, but in his eyes, she saw something that was not ordinary at all. She saw a decision being made. She saw a man choosing to throw away his life for something that mattered more than survival. Velith had lived for over 3 centuries. In all that time, she had never seen anything quite like it. The Galactic Concord was an alliance of 17 species. It had kept peace in the galaxy for over 1,000 years. It had laws and procedures for almost every situation. But it also had older traditions, older debts. The Velanti had helped create the Concord. They had given it their wisdom, their technology, their protection. In return, the other species had made promises. Sacred promises that could be called upon in times of great need. Velith had never used these promises before. No Velanti leader had used them in 300 years. But for Marcus Cole, she would use them now. She stood before the assembled representatives of 17 species in the Great Hall of the Concord headquarters. She was tall and silver, radiating power and age, and something that looked almost like anger. I am calling in the dead of founding, she announced. Her voice carried through the chamber. I am invoking the right of recovery, and I am asking every member of this Concord to help me find one human man. She projected his image on every screen in the room. A tired face. Ordinary features. Human. His name is Marcus Cole. He saved my daughter when no one else would. He's currently a prisoner of Keth Serrano, and I intend to bring him home. The chamber erupted in voices. Some shocked. Some confused. Some calculating the political implications. But Velith did not wait for them to finish arguing. "This is not a request," she said. "This is a statement. The Volanthi are going to war. Those who wish to honor their debts may join us. Those who do not may stay behind. But Marcus Cole will be free before the week is over. This I swear." The vote was not close. 16 of 17 species agreed to help. Within 2 days, the largest fleet in Concord history was assembled. 400 ships from a dozen worlds. The most powerful force the galaxy had seen in generations, all for one human who had made the right choice. Keth Serrano received the news in his office. His yellow eyes watched the sensor display fill with enemy contacts. 400 ships, warships, carriers, weapons that could crack planets. He had faced many enemies in his 50 years. He had won many battles. But this was not a battle he could win. What do they want? He asked. His communications officer swallowed nervously. They want Marcus Cole, alive and unharmed. If we refuse, they will destroy us. Serrano sat in silence for a long time. Then he laughed. "Remarkable," he said to himself. "Truly remarkable." In his cell, Marcus heard explosions. He assumed Serrano had finally decided to kill him and was simply being dramatic about it. He closed his eyes and prepared for the end. The cell door exploded inward. Standing in the smoke was a Volanthi woman. She was tall, silver, and radiating power. Her 4 violet eyes looked exactly like Lyrian's. Behind her stood soldiers from species Marcus had only seen in pictures. "Marcus Cole," she said. Her voice was like Lyrian's, but deeper, older. "I am Velith, High Counselor of the Volanthi people." Marcus stared at her. He did not understand. "I believe you have met my daughter," Velith continued. She extended a silver hand toward him. "And I believe it is time you came home." Marcus looked at her hand. He looked at the soldiers behind her. He looked at the destroyed door and the chaos beyond it. "I don't understand," he said. "How? Why?" Velith smiled. It was a warm smile, full of gratitude and something like wonder. "Because you taught us something, Marcus Cole. You taught 17 species that humanity is more than violence and chaos. You showed us what humans can be when they choose to be their best selves." She took his hand and helped him to his feet. "And that," she said, "is worth more than any debt. That is worth everything." Marcus Cole walked out of his cell a free man. Behind him, the criminal empire of Keth Serrano was crumbling. Around him, soldiers from across the galaxy stood at attention. And ahead of him, for the first time in weeks, there was a future. He did not know what that future would hold. He did not know what came next. But he knew one thing for certain. He had bet everything on doing what was right. And finally, impossibly, he had won.